everybody, how's it going today? Glowplasma231 here, and today I want to talk about the 7th chapter of Tenmaku Cinema. I guess that really is a surprise, Base, that you click on this video. I mean, did you expect Tenmaku Cinema? I mean, you should have. But, how's it going, everybody? Like I said, we want to talk about Tenmaku Cinema Chapter 7 today. This chapter is titled The Director's Job. And before we really hop into this chapter, I just want to say that I really do think this is a really good chapter of Tenmaku Cinema, being this is the first time we were actually seeing the actual movie be shot. Because, I mean, we've got the whole thing on location scouting and stuff with Kurai last time on the beach, just showing off, like, Shinichi sort of doing his job, but here, of course, we get the title of The Director's Job, and we really get a lot of that in this chapter of showing what Shinichi is made of, and showing how, or I guess I should call him Hajime, since I will refer to him as Hajime in the rest of this video. Hajime Shinichi. He's got a full name like the rest of us. But yeah, and the other two things I just want to say is thank you everybody for watching this video and checking everything out on the channel. We're growing little by little, and I just really love to see that. And the other thing is what happened last time in Tenmaku Cinema. And I sort of alluded to it here a minute ago, but like I said, last time we got the whole idea of the end of the location scouting sort of arc with Kurai going on the beach and her showing her acting ability to Hajime and Tenmaku. And of course, we also saw the whole joke that Hajime and Tenmaku, or Team Shinichi, I guess as they call it, is going to be the film club, all that good jazz, is getting entered into a film contest. And at the end of the last chapter, we saw the whole thing of the entire group setting out down the hall to film. And that is not quite where we start this chapter, since we go a little bit of backstory, but we then, of course, get there. So, to actually start off the chapter, we start off with Hajime thinking back on his time being a little kid. Of course, we know that he was really sickly, and I am glad that they brought that back up again here, because it is something that is really easy to forget, and just reinforcing that until people remember it, that's a really good idea for Yuta Tsukuda to be doing. I also should mention, Tenmaku Cinema is written by Yuta Tsukuda and drawn by Shun Saeki. Yeah, there you go. This chapter actually doesn't have any good old Shun Saeki, what he really loves to draw in it. So if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. But we pretty much see that Hajime was really sickly as a kid, and he's just sort of thinking to himself, my earliest memories of being a kid was being sick. My parents often bought me stuff to keep me entertained while I was sick, but out of all of that stuff, movies were the treasure that rose to the top and really made me want to enjoy living. And after we sort of get that little brief note, we cut on Team Shinichi walking to the halls of the school. We see all of his friends there, Kurai and Hajime himself. And we will sort of get reintroduced into the 3 friends in this chapter, sort of learning their deal. But as we're getting into it, we start off with a little bit of a funny note between Tenmaku and Hajime, as Tenmaku is dead asleep. And he has wrapped his scarf around Hajime's arm as they're walking down. And Hajime's getting a little bit bothered by this, like, hey, wake up, I'm not going to drag you there. And he's like, we start shooting today, so how about some moral support from you, right? And we sort of see why Tenmaku is so tired during all of this. And it's sort of the reversal of roles that we got a few chapters ago in the beginning of the series, where all night, Hajime was just waking up Tenmaku as Tenmaku is trying to sleep, just to ask him about movie directing things and all of that stuff, right? And it's sort of a bit of a funny role reversal there, because of course, if we remember, there's that whole joke where Tenmaku was waking up Hajime to watch the movies. So that's a nice little, he got you back, Tenmaku, right? But here in the actual timeline here, Tenmaku's just like, well, I do understand why you're excited. Until now, you were just a movie fan, but today you're a filmmaker. As Hajime sort of is like, yeah, he's right. And he's sort of thinking, he's like, that really is a huge deal. As he thinks back to himself being younger, and he's just like, movies were just something I watched in bed, a world I yearned to be part of. And today, for the first time, I'm shooting a movie. As we get sort of a cool image of Hajime here, as he's holding something in his hand, and he sort of got his hand over his chest as he's just sort of looking forward, just thinking about, yeah, this little boy who loves movies is actually getting to shoot a movie, and that's just really cool and awesome, right? But we sort of see that he's staring off into the distance, and that two of his friends, Bito and Chino, sort of call over and like, "Hey, Hajime, what are you doing? We're trying to film before anyone gets here, right?" And Hajime is just like, "Yeah, you guys are right," as he just starts to yell at them like, "Hey, what are you doing? Our time is limited," right? And they're just like, "Well, that's what I said to you." So just some nice kid banner. I mean, I think these kids are, what, like 14, 13? I actually don't know if we got that in the earlier chapters. That may be something to go and check after I get done with this review. We'll just know for next time. But if you know, just leave it in the comments. We'll just see if any of us know. But pretty much, at this point, we sort of just get narration from Tenmaku just going through, and he sort of keeps asking Hajime questions just to get a point across of what all the other crew members are doing, as he's like, "Hey, by the way, Hajime, who's going to be playing the other roles?" As Hajime's just like, "Well, here's the thing, the guys will also doubling as staff," and it's pretty much explained that, yeah, so while they are holding the cameras and doing everything else, they're also going to be in the scene, so they will be the co-stars of the movie when Kurai is obviously the lead actor. Tenmaku's is like, "I love it, it really has an indie film vibe, so who's in charge of the sound mixing?" And who would have thought it's Akitsu? I'm sure it's something that we all saw coming, being that Akitsu had a band-related idea, as we sort of get that. He's like, he's in a band, so he's probably the best suited to handle audio production. That checks out. And we see him just standing here, Akitsu saying here, his full name is Junosuke Akitsu. He's just like, using some industry terms like, "Yeah, I could probably clean up some of the noise later. We might need a wired lapel mic at some point. Or we can use ADR and for the equalizing." As you also see, Kurai's here just taking note of this. I would think that she would know what sort of some of this stuff is, being that, I mean, she's been around movies before. So that's just an interesting little thing there. But we then see one of Hajime's other friends walk over, and this is Ryoji Bito. So this is Bito, and he hands Hajime something, and it is a handmade camera slider, and Hajime remarks on how good it looks, and we sort of learn what Bito's whole role in this is. He made it out of stuff he found in the shed, and he is the guy who can make anything out of anything. So it's sort of just saying that he's a jack of all trades, and the narration is Bito's great with his hands, building and modifying stuff's a piece of cake for him, and that he is the perfect grip. And if you know what a grip is, because I don't know either, there is a little note down here in the corner that just says, "A grip is a person in charge of camera dollies and cranes in movie production." So yeah, that makes perfect sense here, right? And of course, then we get more ideas like who's going to be styling the actors, and that is Hajime's other friend, and it's Aoi Shino. This is Shino. We finally know who Shino is, right? And we pretty much see that both of his sisters are, one of them so he's got two sisters. His oldest sister is named Akane. She's a second-year student at a hair and makeup department at a beauty school. And Midori, his second sister, is a first-year student in a stylish department of a fashion design school. So because of that, we also learned that whenever they were younger, Shino and his two sisters would always be like doing each other's hair and all of that. So Shino knows his way around makeup and all of like the fashion and clothes and all of that. So makes perfect sense. He's just like, "Yeah, we were always doing each other's hair as kids. I can help out with the hair and wardrobe and stuff," right? And Hajime's just like, "That's fantastic." So yeah, we've got pretty much everything. We got Hajime, who's mostly going to be shooting the movie himself, along with some of the other guys holding other cameras, like Bito. We've got Shino, who will be doing, like, fashion and makeup and all that, then probably be holding a camera. Then Akitsu, who will probably mostly just be doing audio. I don't really know if audio guys also do a lot of video, too, being that I don't really know how movies are made. I mean, I don't watch movies at all, so I don't really know that. I just really enjoy this manga, so I'm learning about movies here. So pretty much Hajime is just like, so here's the thing. Our goal today is to shoot all of Nagisa's school scenes. Shoe lockers, hallways, classrooms, all of the shots are needed in this document here. So he pulls out a document out of his bag, and some of the other guys just remark on how much is actually in this document, right? And Hajime is like, here's the thing. Once summer break starts, Kurai will be even busier, so we need to at least get this much done as soon as we can, right? And all of a sudden, Bito is just like, hey, wait a minute, isn't Nagisa's school by the ocean? And he's just like, so does that mean we're going to the beach now? As Shino's just like, really, are we going to be doing that on a weekday? And Akitsu's just like, oh, I guess you guys have no qualms about cutting school. But Hajime cuts in, he's just like, hey, I already explained this, we don't have the time or budget to go back and forth a bunch of times, so there's only one big option. We have to make it look like this school is by the ocean. It's a common practice in filmmaking. And I remember a few chapters ago we learned about insert shots, so when you just take a shot of something and it sort of breaks up the action and can give a sense of time or place. I guess this is sort of what they're going to be doing. But Hajime sort of explains this in the funniest way possible. So he's just like, for example, in the live-action version of The Promised Neverland... I didn't know there was a live-action version of The Promised Neverland. But pretty much the point that he's trying to get across here is that the interior and exterior of the Gracefield house were different buildings, and the interior set was built in a totally different location than where the outside set was. I guess this is like the same sort of thing as like on a sitcom. You may get shown a house, but on the outside, but on the inside, that house is actually in a studio somewhere. So that's just an interesting thing there. Beto is sort of freaked out by this, and Oxy's just like, wow, you would just never know by that. And Hajime just continues to explain, just showing him how much of a movie nerd he is. And he's like, here's the thing, it was summer on site and the cicadas were chirping like crazy, so they had to replace those sounds outside, being this is the outside shots of the area around there, and he's like, they had to replace those sounds with sounds and fit their intended world. He pretty much goes on, so if we can splice in the sound of waves as a shot of the school, then the audience will interpret that as the school being by the ocean. The art of mixing sounds and visuals to evoke the desired effect is something at the very core of filmmaking. Again, makes perfect sense, and so I learn something every day reading this series. So as all of this is going on, Hajime sort of is directing over to props, as a cry sort of calls Hajime's attention. She's like, hey director, I'm ready. As we look at Nagisa, she's in a traditional school uniform. Shunsai did his best to make her look her best, and yeah, Cry looks really good. As we see that Hajime sort of blushes a little bit, just very vaguely, as we just see at the top of a panel here on page 9. It's just like, right, okay. And it's like, well then, today's the first day of shooting. We have about 2 months until the deadline for the contest. Just like, everybody, thanks for doing this. And everybody just is like, yeah, let's go. As Hajime just breathes in, breathes out, just like, filming. Scene 2, shot 1, take 1, ready, and action. As we see that, yeah, Hajime's got this. I don't think this is the camera slider that we saw earlier. This is actually something that he had in his hand earlier. But yeah, he has got a, I don't know what you'd call this, but a filming apparatus in his hand and 2 iPhones on it to show what's being filmed. We didn't just cut around to seeing a bunch of shots being filmed and just some narration going. Any staff with a free hand films with an art camera. Filming simultaneously with multiple cameras is a common practice in professional shoots. As we see that Hajime has the main cam, Beto has a secondary cam, and Shino has a tertiary cam. And we just see the images from an art angle are useful during the editing process when there's a change in tempo. It also saves a lot of filming time. As we see as Hajime is filming, he's just like, based on my research, there are 0 students on campus at this hour. We're in a blind spot from the staff room. We should be able to film without anybody noticing. Which shows that they're doing this guerrilla style, that they probably shouldn't be here, but they are. And of course, you know, the school is somewhere, and they're not really supposed to be interacting with Karai too much, but they sort of are, so. And we also see here that Tenmaku is just like, hey, nice location scouting. Now, the weird part about this is this is all things that Hajime is obviously thinking to himself, but Tenmaku sort of thinks and says this out loud. So, are Hajime and Tenmaku, like, telepathically linked? Like, what's going on here? But that's a little besides the point, right? We just go through, and we just see that they want to get a frontal shot of Nagisa now, played by Karai, and Karai's just, like, doing a shot. She's like, hey, good morning, you're here early today, Shimada, right? And we see that Tenmaku's having to tell Hajime, like, when to say cut, as he's like, hey, there, call cut. And we see Hajime's like, cut! And that happens, and we also see that Beto and Chino are very entranced by Nagisa. As it's going on, they check all the images on the tablet, and everybody's just sort of blown away, and like, man, this really looks like a legit movie, and like, we're actually making a movie here, right? That's going on, but Hajime is sort of not really too happy about this. He's just like, well, the acting is perfect, but my camera work is like minus 90,000 points. And everybody's just sort of freaking out. I'm like, dude, just calm down. He's just like, no, I should have gone for more of a close-up, from a slightly overhead to a scintillate spot around their eyes. One more take, please, right? And they do this, and everybody sees it, and they're just like, wow, he's right. This is much better than the first one, right? Sure, that's fair. But as they're doing this, everybody's like, hey, way to go, Hajime. But we see that an alarm on Hajime's phone goes off. And Hajime is like, oh, wait, my alarm. And he's like, everybody, you need to hide. As they all hide behind lockers. As we see that he did location scouting because a janitor is walking by at this time. So the janitor walks by, and there's location scouting on Hajime's part, showing that, yes, he even went to this length to do it. At that point, Octus is like, hey, what are we doing? We need to get back to this. That costs us some time. So, like, back to your positions, everyone. And everybody's like, wait, for real? Will we actually be able to finish it up? Everyone will be here soon, right? And we see as they're all sort of scrambling around to do this and film and everything. And we see that everybody is really enjoying this. Tenmaku's just sitting here looking on, and he's just like, no matter how many years go by, I love this. The tension of a shoot and the euphoria that comes with it. As, yeah, it's just really cool that, of course, Tenmaku's been around this forever. And, yeah, just a cool shot of him seeing what's all going on. And they end up finishing most everything of it as we hear a final cut. And we look around, everybody's looking at the tablet, and they're like, we did it, we actually pulled it off. And Octus is like, well, we met our target of finishing all of the school shots, so that's a job well done. But as Tenmaku is sort of looking on, he sort of got his hand on his face, and Nagisa sort of got it too. And we're just looking over here as Hajime suddenly walks over, and he's just like, it's not enough. As everybody's like, what's going on? And Shino's just like, I'm sorry, we were being so loud I couldn't hear. What's going on here? And Hajime's just like, oh, it's nothing. I mean, everything's fine. He's just like, we got all the shots we planned on, and Kurai's acting was fantastic. Let's just clean up. As we see that Tenmaku sort of gets on his case and sort of glares at him and picks up his head and shakes it back and forth. Very violently, I guess you would say. Everybody sort of takes note, and they're just like, yeah, Hajime doesn't really look too satisfied here. As Nagisa finally, Kurai finally speaks up and is just like, there's a shot you want to add, isn't there? And Hajime's just like, well, but, as Kurai just cuts him off, he's like, but what? Explain. Hajime's just like, we haven't prepared, and I'm not an experienced cameraman, plus there's a risk that other students might notice. And Kurai's just like, even so, you're the director, you should do it. It's like, your job as the director is to insist on your vision. As we see everybody's funneling into the school, and they're all talking to each other, and this janitor's also walking by, and same janitor from earlier, and he's going to his cart, but his cart is suddenly disappeared, as we see that Hajime and the gang have stole it, and are going outside to the school courtyard as everybody's walking in the morning to film this scene. So, yeah, that's the end of the chapter. Now, like I said, this is a really good chapter, sort of showing that director's job, and that being really shown here in the last sort of part of it. Just, it's your job as a director to insist on your vision. Yeah, it's very good. I do like that very much. The whole thing of, I mean, I know it's going to happen. I'm a chapter or two behind, but yeah, this is really good. I enjoy it, and really don't have much else to say. Really good chapter. Like I said, I'm a few chapters behind, so no use in speculating on what will be happening next. But yeah, another scene is going to be shot, and yeah, without further ado, I don't really have much else to say. If you're enjoying Tenmaku Cinema chapter reviews, thank you for making it this far into the video. I recently did a bunch of stuff on Nintendo content, so if you like Nintendo, go check out all of that. Of course, got tons of our anime and manga content here on the channel, so if you enjoy this, you may enjoy that too. Same sort of style video. And yeah, without further ado, I don't really have too much else to say, and yeah, Tenmaku Cinema Chapter 7, the director's job, and this is going to be Glowplasma231, out.